hello, you lovelies, and welcome to KoiCast. I am Koi Jandro, a Bostonian who loves comic books, pop culture, and many people. I am joined as ever by the great Jake Lloyd Bacon. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. You rearranged the order there at the top.
I did. I
thought you forgot for a second.
I was like, who am I? Where am I? I'm Koi Jandro. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Yeah, doing all right. Excited to chat all about nerd shit with you. Been looking forward to it, especially because you're back online.
I'm back on the internet, so there may be some conversation today, not only about news, but also about like what the world's like on the internet.
So you took off of
12 days.
Of all social media, except like you did post some shit where you were just like, oh, I went on and I just posted and I didn't look at anything.
On TikTok.
Yeah.
But because you don't have to scroll, like the way the app works is you don't have to engage.
Right. You don't have to see anything.
Exactly. So I felt safe.
Right.
Because I didn't consume anything.
Right.
But I did do a story based on a post you did on Discord, which was very helpful.
Oh, really? Okay, great.
Yeah,
Glad I could supply some news.
You posted, I know you were so happy that you got to tell me things and then you got to do
about
it.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Right, about Hank.
You got to tell me about Hank and you got to tell me about, oh yeah, it was that with The Witcher and there was one more thing. I forget what.
Was it just that Twitter was bought by Elon Musk and you were unaware?
Yeah, that was a fun little day. That was a journey. Anyway, so I'm back on the internets and, results may vary. It certainly is a place. I have many regrets, but that is part of being on the internet.
Were you happier for the time you were trying to avoid Black Panther spoilers? Because you were just trying to avoid spoilers to Black Panther.
To be honest, I think I was anxious because I didn't know what was happening. Like, do you know
FOMO?
I had the did I leave the stove on feeling. Like
right.
I was just aware that I was like removed. But I think overall,
I think it's FOMO. I think you're describing FOMO as you were like, oh, there could be something happening.
Look at the party over there.
I'm not
privy to something. But I also.
What if Hollywood is DMing me?
Hello, Hollywood? Yeah, sorry, I'm busy right now, being off the internet. No, I think it was really nice to not be on it as far as like mental health definitely improved. My sense of like urgency for notifications has improved now. I'm on it I'm still on it about half as much. But that's still only about 60 to 70 pickups versus like 100, 120. Like I pick up my phone maybe 150 times a day. Okay. And before it was every time I'd open social media. Now it's about half, which is still way too much. Okay. I'm still checking my phone about 4 times an hour.
That doesn't seem a lot, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, like when
like what I'm saying is I'm calling you a liar. I think that's way too little. Like that's not.
It's a big mark down
but like
that's like every 15 minutes.
Yeah, this show recording is like 45 minutes to an hour, and you check your phone during recording at least 25 times.
Make sure there's no breaking news. What if news breaks and we're a news show?
All right.
That said, it has improved, and it's also way worse. I think that when you realize how people treat each other in real life is medium to bad, and then you realize how people treat each other online is either very good or very bad. There's no real middle ground. Like people, I mean, we've discussed this. There's no nuance. There's no opportunity for discourse. There's only let me monologue at you with either love or hate.
Sure.
And that's really hard because the love is addicting, which is inherently long-term negative, and the hate is all you remember, which is obviously very bad. Right. So it's been really hard for me because I think I can shoulder more hate than I would say the average because I have that balance of so much love. Like I have a really good fan base. I am hyper positive, so that generally accrues a hyperactively positive fan base because you get sick of my shit. Like if you won't follow me for long if you want hot negative takes. Like that's not what I'm bringing you. But at the same time, when people
depends on your opinion.
True. I mean that's what the internet's for. I get opinions.
Right.
But if you can only shoulder the positivity because that's why you follow me, and then you get attacked by someone that's so full of hate to like attack Chadwick Boseman on my Instagram, then perhaps it's even more jarring. So it's hard. What I try to cultivate is positivity because the world's so dark. But man, when the darkness comes in, it's extra. It's a lot.
Yeah. I feel like it'll definitely make you more reactionary.
Yeah.
Returning to it and being like, oh, that's right. Pop culture discourse. Like, and now I feel like you're like it's like the old Mitch Hedberg thing where he talks about telling jokes where he's like, oh yeah, I like to hold a kink in the hose. So when I unkink it, all the jokes come out at once. Like that's me. All of your reactions have been in that kinked hose.
And it's a lot. And it's also really hard because I am very passionate about this stuff, and it does affect me as a person. I made a video about death that resonated with a lot of people about your experience with death, and whether it's a fictional character, an actor you didn't know, or a person you actually knew, your brain makes it real. In the exact same way that your brain makes a horror movie real, you're impacted by an experience of knowing someone in a way.
Sure.
So I will never let someone demean the experience of like, you didn't know this person, their death doesn't matter. That's bullshit. They affected you.
Right.
Their death matters.
Right.
I know plenty of people that are closer to their idea of Stan Lee than their own fathers. Like that's
sure, of course.
It's your experience.
Yeah.
So I remember back when Stan passed, I cried. Like I actually felt like that level of emotion.
Sure.
I'm a hard crier. It's hard to make me cry. And I remember the amount of hate I got because I was crying about losing someone that people were like, you never met. I'm like, one, I fucking met the guy like last year at a living wake he had because he knew. And two, fuck you. So I'm finding with the Wakanda Forever discourse, not only is this character important, but he's an icon for an entire people. So he means so much to so many that to specifically go at him is like, my vitriol goes to an 11 automatically. There's no middle. There's just me fucking angry.
Sure.
And so people were interrupting this live stream I was doing, and they were trying to rile me up. But the fun part is I'm fucking living riled up. So I find that I'm able to just like...
It's a secret, Cap.
I'm just fucking always livid. It's really hard because I know it's costing me jobs, and I know it's costing me a following, and I know it's making my rise on social media slower, and that's all studios are caring about right now because their optics are, which I think will change soon. I think we're seeing a shift start. Their optics are, the resumes don't matter, work experience don't matter. They matter 15%, but following matters 85%. And we're seeing through all the announcements this week, I'm going to be talking about streamers and everything failing and falling apart. The numbers aren't what matters entirely. They're a huge part of it, but we need to start looking at the new media wave very differently. Discovery is showing, hey, dropping everything on streaming and your streaming numbers, that's not going to help your bottom line. We have to cancel movies. Disney had an announcement on Friday, very quietly. Not enough people are talking about it.
They're cutting a ton of employees.
That's insane. It's Disney. They're literally the biggest empire in entertainment. If Disney's fucked, we're all
And they
fucked.
just released the movie
that weekend.
That broke so many, like even more records.
So while we talk about record breaking, we're talking about layoffs.
Yeah.
That same week, that shouldn't be the situation.
Well, that's also, listen, that's also the distribution of wealth and distribution of the capital. And so like, there's a lot to be said about how much money Disney makes for its 1%ers compared to like the people that we know that are friends that work at Disney and talk about how much they fucking hate working at Disney. People who will go unnamed, but I have plenty of people that are like, yeah, no, I've been working for Marvel for 5 years and I thought it would be a dream job and I fucking hate it.
Yeah. And there's no real money in entertainment until you're in that top. Like there's not.
Or you're well protected by a union.
Right.
And
there is no union on new media. And there is no union for a lot of entertainment jobs. So, and even some unions that are in the entertainment industry are not quote unquote unions. So it's an optics system where you're paying them and the production's wavering. I don't know. It's going to be a big shift. I do think we get some strikes next year. I do think that this is the beginning of a big problem and shift in Hollywood. And that does tie into all our stories, which is why I opened with this is, I do think the optics of entertainment and social media are a problem. And I do think the way that Hollywood and the entertainment industry perceives those things is false. I don't think that certain people with millions of followers have the impact people think they do, and that's shifting. And I also think that the way we're pretending numbers on streaming has a financial impact is also false.
Well, especially because those numbers don't equate to $1 considering like how many people are paying for the service.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's a $5 service once a month. Here's a $200 million property. Put it on streaming. How's that working out for you?
Also, like everybody has each other's password.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
There's 4 people who subscribe to Netflix.
That's $80 in movie tickets.
There are a lot of, I've heard rumor that like, certain services are going to start charging per profile.
Right.
So like, yeah, you can still have all one plan,
right,
but you're going to get charged per profile, per profile you set up. Which is like really that's just really a fuck you to the anal people like me who are like, no, I have my queue, I have my watch list. Like, I don't want to share that.
I need this for me.
I don't want to share that.
Don't you mess with my algorithm. I live here. This is mine.
Right.
It's gonna be like we're about to see I think we're about to see a 2008 level mess with the entertainment industry. I think within the next 6 months it'll be pure chaos
because of
streaming not paying their people enough.
Right.
Because of streaming not having the money to pay anyone, because of that impasse that's going to be, hey, we can't pay you. Hey, you need to pay us. and then the fallout of 2 years of movies going straight to streaming that never worked.
Right.
This show was founded as things were getting moved and canceled, and then within a quarter 2 of Koicast was everything going to streaming.
Right.
And then quarters 3 and 4 was like, well, that's going too. And from the beginning, I've been on record saying it's not financially responsible. And everyone has been mad at me for everything from being ableist about going to the movie theater to, which I've just shouldered and dealt with, but it's a show business. And yes, there are exceptions. And I understand that even if it's 10% of people, I'm not meaning to disrespect you. I'm looking at the bottom line.
Yeah,
and I'm looking at show.
Also, the reality is they don't care. Like the people.
Oh yeah, they don't care.
This isn't about. It's about being realistic.
Right.
About how companies stay in business.
If you want the exhibition industry to stay in business, or people to stay paid making entertainment,
and where the money goes, because you and I talk all about like a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was this quote indie darling,
right?
Which still cost a ton of fucking money. And really had to fight, and it had to be as good as it was,
right,
in order to succeed. For every one of those, there's 100 other movies that cost half that are still really, really good, that have absolutely no place in a theater anymore.
Yeah.
And the reality is that if those movies had the ability to make more money, it's like now we're talking economics. Now we're talking about like. That's a part of all this.
Isn't
Reaganomics. It's not trickle down. Like
there
we can't have
no trickle down.
We can't have 2 studios making all the money. So the more that we have independent, people succeeding, the more likely they are to be hiring,
right,
giving work, so that the people that we know that are incredibly talented don't have to go work for Marvel and have a nightmare experience where they're underpaid, overworked, and underappreciated.
Right. And to make that a macro scale, like look at and I'm going to completely own this as selfish, but I only have my own life perspective. Look at how much work we do. And like consistently, we need to go, hey, audience, we can't do this without you.
Sure.
That's not the system. Like, and it is in this case because we are very hands-on, no ad reads, nothing. We're with our audience. But if you look at all the networks I work for, like I have to have 7 jobs to live in LA.
Of course.
And that's flabbergasted. Like I don't get to, everybody's like, take a break, slow down, have a breather. I don't have to, I can't eat.
Right.
And that's not healthy. The knowledge, the mental health awareness that both this isn't sustainable, I'm losing my mind, and I don't have another choice is not good.
Sure.
And that's everyone at Disney. That's everyone at Warner Brothers. That's everyone at blank.
That's what I've told you this many times, where it's like, there's the creative bubble of like the people making things. And that's a whole separate thing from the hype bubble that you're a part of, where like I've always said, like at some point or another, like the big companies are going to realize that this free labor that they've been exploiting for the past 10 to 20 years, because of the internet, like that bubble's going to pop, and they're going to have to, put up more TV commercials. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're going to have to actually pay, because they're getting away paying you a lot less than paying, Turner Network and what's the big evil one that Fox is owned by? What are they called? I actually got
Newsmax or whatever.
No.
That's under the same level.
I had it and it went away. It's not Turner Broadcast Group, but it's something Broadcast Group. Anyways, that the money's going to have to unfortunately go back into those properties, because although maybe not, as long as there's people like you going like, I just want to be a part of it.
Well, that's the thing is
I'll take less than I deserve, because I like doing the work.
But there are people that literally take nothing. Like there are people.
What I mean.
I at least expect something most of the time.
Yeah.
There are people that like, the problem is the TikToks of the world, they reach more eyes than any commercial, and then those people are doing it for free, so they don't have to.
What about Twitter? Twitter's gonna go away soon.
I think Twitter is going to survive in a form, but I don't think for long. I think we got another year.
They literally can't afford it.
Yeah,
like they can't afford to. All right, so
give me your science.
So over on another podcast that I do, Good Work. By the way, as of today, the day that we're recording this, the episode of Good Work that just came out on Dragon Rag Radio, Elon Musk was on the show. We spoke to Elon Musk. Oh. It's a must listen. You have to listen. If you haven't checked out Good Work, check out this week's episode. It's called Comedy Tweet Storm with Elon Musk, and it's fantastic. But anyways, cheap plug for the other program. Like Twitter's gonna be gone. Like it's financially, like the only thing that's gonna save it is if he then now sells it for a fraction of what he paid for it, and then somebody just completely changes it foundationally.
Yeah.
So either way, if it's quote stays, the version that we know it's going to be gone.
So no matter what, this Twitter's
right. Yeah. It's going to go away and same. It's going to be either filled with the things that Elon is realizing it can't be filled with, which is like no control over spam, no control over bots, no control over hate speech, all the things, in which case advertisers are still not going to be a part of it, or the advertisers that are going to pay for it are going to be like your Google ads when you go onto any website, and it's
right.
or the bottom of any shitty pop culture news website where it's like, oh, check out the dress that this person wore, check out this thing, oh, make your dick bigger for blah blah blah, oh, who
those
all the
aggressive
clickbait,
political ads.
Yeah, those,
like, what is this?
All those clickbaity kind of stuff. Like that's going to be the only way that they're going to be able to sustain themselves. And even then, they're going to have to like really cut back on the actual manpower it takes to run the company. Right. It's gone. And I've completely flipped. In retrospect, at first I was like really upset and I was defending. I was like, no, Twitter is super important. Like for all the evil, awful shit that Twitter did, it also like the Me Too movement survived mostly because of Twitter and the speaking out movement, the BLM. Like Twitter is such a huge forum for grassroots, progressive voices, and so many people that got elected to office and even just in the midterms this year, it was because of Twitter that they, and so I was that guy. And then I started thinking about your world of Twitter, and then I'm like, no, you know what? I'm ready for it to be gone.
Dude, because you spend one day on my Twitter,
because
you will
it's
doubt
not
everything.
It's not, but it's also like all right. Here's I'm going to talk on you now because it's funny. When I think back about the way that I was told I was supposed to use Twitter, okay, I was supposed to use Twitter as a creative to reach more people, all right, and to use it as a marketing platform. And the best way that you utilize Twitter is by championing other Twitter users and by prepping up fellow voices, right? So I started at a point where my agent at the time, I no longer have, or they were my manager. I no longer am with these people, but they were the manager of like a really big YouTuber. And they were like, you got to be a YouTuber. That's like, because that's like their main client. So now all of a sudden every one of their clients has to do this. And I was like, no, it's not me. And I was like, but if you really want me to attempt to increase my profile, I've had this idea to start this podcast network with a buddy of mine, blah, blah, blah. So I start the podcast network with the idea of engaging the Twitter audience and growing my Twitter via the podcast network. In the past 6 years I've had this show, I have maybe 300 more Twitter followers than I did when it started. I am on multiple podcasts that I do outside of the ones that I'm not on, which there are a litany of that I just produce. But on the ones I'm on, I do a show with Alexandra, who barely uses Twitter, has no following to speak of. I'm on a show with Scott Narver, Pro Wrestling Palskis, has a Twitter and a small following, does not use it, does not doesn't, and even his following isn't necessarily the following that would engage with our wrestling program that we do. I do good work now with James Mastriani, barely uses Twitter, no following to speak of. Matt Newell doesn't even have a Twitter account. Okay, my co-stars of that show. I do a D&DW with Paul and Matt. No social media presence outside of like an occasional Insta, maybe.
Yeah.
And again, no following to shake a stick at. And then I do Koicast with Koi Jandro, who uses social media, has a following, doesn't post about the show that he does with me because it's bad for his algorithm.
I get like 10 likes.
Yeah, exactly. You're part of the fucking problem.
But that's not what I think Twitter's for.
Well, then you should tweet the show more.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not for advertising yourself because the people that are there already know your show.
Twitter gets click-through. No, they don't. Twitter is that's one of the things that I like most about Twitter is that like, especially modern day Twitter, is that like it shows you shit that the people that you follow like.
But I try to once a month make sure I include this in either Instagram or Twitter.
Oh, okay, once a month.
That's a quarter of the time.
But anyways, all I'm saying is that's my experience. By the way, I also fucking wrote and directed and produced a movie with 4 co-stars. It was me and 4 other people that are on the poster, names on the poster. Tony Wayne, no fucking social media.
How many
Melanie
times?
Johnson, no social media. Jake Brown, get well soon, buddy. No social media.
How aggressively was I team coffee and headshots?
Julie,
I did so much.
Okay, thank you for that.
But like, did I not? Like when there was something.
I know, but I'm just saying.
But like when there was something I could do, I did.
All I'm trying to say is my luck with this.
But I don't use, if you look at my Twitter,
Sure.
Christian Harloff gives me the same crap because I don't
Sure.
advertise the show there. Because if you follow someone and they only are like, here's marketing, you don't follow them.
But
for
you
long.
don't. That's not. But that's what's great about you is that you don't only do that.
I don't.
It would be a nice mixture in with all of the. There's a nice variety across all platforms.
Yeah, I occasionally do. One out of 20 posts is an ad.
All right. Anyways, so Twitter's gone, and I guess I'm okay with it now. So I'm trying to get at. I've turned the corner.
What do you think's going to happen to the let's go politics. What do you think's going to happen without a voice?
I mean, we're just gonna two things is the extremists that are actively seeking to be extreme are going to go find their bubbles regardless.
Sure.
Because they mostly already have with shit
Right.
like Truth Social and all, right? The moderates who are likely to be extremized, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Radicalized,
thank you. They're now not going to have the ability to be that, right? So it's going to be only a good thing.
Yeah.
And conversations will have to take place long form. Now, again, this is where I defend Twitter is like Instagram, it's like it's not a place for conversation. It's not, you know what I mean? Like TikTok is sort of a place for conversation, but it's usually one-sided.
Right. It's monologuing.
Right. It's monologuing.
There is no place for a dialogue.
So, and that's why like
Twitter
was great, but it's like, at the same time too, Facebook is their OG Twitter. And also, by the way, Meta is also going under. Like, Zuckerberg is losing a ton of money. Like Meta is absolutely failing, which means Instagram might also be on the chopping block one day. I think that app itself has value to be purchased from Meta.
Like those two.
Like he might, Zuckerberg and the metaverse might just sell Insta, or maybe it's the only thing that's making them money right now, so they won't. But
I think it's the only thing making.
I could see them selling Insta because Insta is the only thing that probably still works for advertisers,
right?
In a way that's valuable to them, but.
If Instagram and Twitter go under, we live in a immediately different world.
Shit will replace it, but it'll be a different, version of the same thing. But but the question is at the end of the day, it's all capitalism, and that's why the Elon Musk Twitter takeover is so funny because it's like, oh, Twitter bought Elon bought Twitter with this voice of like, oh, Twitter's being controlled by this radical left, boot on the voice of freedom.
Yeah,
and he bought it. And immediately learned that wasn't the case. It was just run by yet another capitalist who had created something that was the most
had infrastructure,
or that was the best it could be at making money.
Right.
And so you can't have just fucking Wild West because you need advertisers. You can't just have people say and do and mock whoever they want and pretend to be whoever they want. Like you need that infrastructure. So the reality is that Elon Musk, ultimately just a capitalist, is going to come to all the exact same conclusions his predecessors came to.
Yeah.
So he's like, this is just going to end up being the Twitter that we know if he is okay with taking the hit. But as of right now, again, they're losing $4 million a day. When he bought it, it was worth, or he paid $44 billion. It's right now, it's worth $8 billion.
So it's lost 32,
36,
no.
whatever the math is
36,
on that. Yeah,
that'd be 44. Yeah, 36 in value. 36 billion in value.
I mean, in the matter of
2 weeks,
in the matter of like 2 or 3 weeks.
Jesus Christ.
And how does that affect like the studios and the marketing money of these? I mean, it's my
biggest platform, but I find that studios don't look at it as much as the other ones. Like when I walk a red carpet, right. So a red carpet used to be your face and then your two biggest credits underneath it.
Right.
Now it's your face and your Instagram following and your TikTok following. It doesn't even have a credit. I literally don't have credits anymore. I have numbers, which makes me feel great.
Right.
So it literally visually is like resumes don't matter. What's your following, which is what I talked about at the top of this.
Right.
But Twitter's not listed. It's Instagram and TikTok.
Right.
But if they get rid of Twitter, there's no communication because you can kind of communicate on TikTok if you make a video back, but that's a lot more complicated than
I saw a tweet the other day that I was like, oh no, this is me. And it was like, listen, guys, I'm sorry. I'm 40. Twitter, I'm going down with this shit. When Twitter goes away, this will be the end of social media for me. Like,
because you don't really use Instagram.
I'm not learning another thing. I'm on Instagram at Jake.
But I said not really use.
I don't use it because I'm like not. I'm a weird private extrovert where I don't. Well, it's not that true. I'm not private because when I was doing Elaborate regularly, like I share every detail of my personal life. I have no problem sharing that.
Yeah,
I do it on the pre-shows for Pro Wrestling Palaces all the time with Scott. Like we talk about, like I am an open book, but I'm not. When it comes to just like I don't sit by myself. I think there's a level of shame that younger people were not inherently born with, that my generation was I never think to myself when I'm sitting alone doing something, oh, I should share this.
Sure.
Like, oh, I should let everybody know what's happening right now. Or if a picture gets it, like,
I'm stuck in the opposite where I'm like, how can I make this thing?
Yeah, if Alexandra and I go somewhere, we go to Joshua Tree for the weekend, and I take a couple photos. Oh, I'll post some of these pretty photos we took because we went and did a thing.
Right.
And it's a place, but like the majority of my life is just sitting here podcasting, and I'm not posting pictures of you and me all fucking day. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not that I dislike Instagram or that I don't use it, is that I'm not active on it. With that said, like, I'm trying to use it for other business. I use it every single episode of anything on Dragon Wagon Radio. I try to post those episode arts and try to drive clicks to Dragon Wagon, but that's tough because it's a non-specific thing for about a variety of topics. But hey, if listening, at It's Dragon Wagon on all social media, but yeah, on Instagram, you can see every time an episode comes out that you're not seeing because Koi isn't fucking reposting it. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see it at It's Dragon Wagon. All the episode art and stuff like that. But it's like, I do use it.
Yeah.
But it's not as personal. It's more like, oh, I have to do this for Dragon Wagon, or I have to do this for the movie. Like, when the movie came out, I made at Pinch Movie on Instagram, and I, even then I was shitty at it. Even then, like, I lasted like 3 weeks of posting something daily,
right?
And then it's like,
and for the algorithm to work on TikTok as it currently lives, it was 3 posts a day, and now I'm hearing from the TikTok folk I know you need to post 5 to 9 times a day.
What's the point?
I can't possibly become that much plugged in. Like, it's not possible. It's just not a thing. It's not sustainable.
No,
and like I don't.
It's also not. It's also like, is it even worth it on an hourly rate for whatever?
No, there's no pay.
Whatever the value. I know, but like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, let's say that gets you a work.
Oh, right.
Or like that gets you access to something like.
Because then you're working 40 hours to work 40 more hours.
Exactly. At what point does the work to get work,
and that's the macro.
Yeah.
That's the macro of what I was saying, where studios don't realize that this isn't how my resume shouldn't require 40 hours of input a week.
Right.
For the resume to then do the job.
Right.
So I don't think that this is sustainable, but there's a lot of 12-year-olds that have the energy. There's a lot of 15-year-olds that like, I don't know what's going to happen. Right. And this is the first time I think in my career in this space where I literally, and I think it's the fall of Twitter is going to be a domino, much like the Discovery merger. Like, the Discovery merger was the canary in the coal mine, and it started singing, and now every other studio is going like, oh no, we're fucked too.
Right.
And so I think Twitter falling apart is the same canary of social media, where it's like, this isn't going to work for us. So it's terrifying in these internet streets.
I don't know. It's all interesting, fascinating. Sorry, that was a weird tangent, everybody. We're supposed to talk about pop culture news, but it's pop culture news. Like, Twitter.
There's nothing bigger in pop culture than social media.
Elon
arguably.
Musk buying Twitter is fucking insane, and it is going to have real world implications for pop culture
and laws and your daily lives. And if Twitter,
if you are plugged in, and that's sort of the argument that my co-host Matt on Good Work makes, where he's like, I don't use Twitter. Like, Twitter goes under tomorrow, it literally has no effect on my life because I don't use it. And the reality is, you and I live in a social media bubble, so everybody that we know is on Twitter. But how many of the world is that? Like, what's the actual percentage?
It's like 5% of America. It was something smaller than I expected.
Pretty small, right? So you figure, is it really going to have that big of a difference? I think it's not going to have a big difference on people's individual lives. I think it's going to have a big difference on people in the entertainment industry and connected to pop culture's lives.
Right.
In which that's where it's going to be like, well, where do we send all these people to? Is it just going to be everybody's just going to go to Instagram, and that's where you're going to follow your favorite show and comedian and a pop culture pundit like yourself? Like, is that going to be the place where you go to just see that stuff? In which case, do those people care that it's not the written word, that it's video or image or whatever? Maybe they don't. Maybe it's kind of irrelevant. I think it's going to most affect politics, and that's it. I don't think it's going to I think pop culture is just going to find another place to get people to look at the thing and watch the ad.
Interesting.
And talk about their thing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, now politics is another story, because that's where it's going to be much harder for grassroots campaigns to really get around. And that could be a good thing, considering how good the right does with, clickbait and with fear mongering, whereas it's not as easy to just share something. But the thing is Twitter's cracked down on that over the past 6 years anyway.
Yeah, they've gotten a lot better.
So overall, the fact that Elon Musk is tweeting shit, and then his own app, Twitter, is putting a disclaimer on his tweet saying, this is not true.
It's so beautiful.
It turns out
so amazing.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah. This is, between now and when we record again, it's going to be different. The world, that's what's crazy to me, is between now and when we record again, the world's going to be a different place. And that's so crazy to think about.
I mean, I think that's a little.
Look at what's done in 2 weeks.
Sure.
Look what's happened in 2 weeks.
I mean, so you mean like, are you, because you're still just talking about Twitter? Because
I'm talking about
we
the
just had the
scope.
midterms and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean everything. I just like every day is big now, but like literally
could be the end.
But that's what. But like, if you look at the you just said $4 million a day, Twitter's losing.
Right.
There's no way Twitter's the same in 2 weeks.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. Is like it's weird to be like, this is crazy between the last time we recorded this time.
I mean, what has changed since he took over? It was
Lockheed Martin lost billions, which I fucking.
I meant for Twitter. Oh yeah, all of those companies.
Lockheed Martini is so funny.
What
a great. You add a fucking I. I never even saw that.
All of those companies and all the people who are pretending to be companies and just doing that Illy and whatever their company is, the drug company that they went, hey, insulin's free, everybody.
Yes.
And then their stock crashed.
I love that Big Pharma and fucking warmongers got hit first. I'm so proud of those fucking.
But yeah, I guess when it comes to like Twitter as a company,
we will see something different.
He bought it. He immediately went to implement things that had to get immediately rolled back because, again, capitalism. Like he realized, oh, I see what happens when I do that. There's things like I'm gonna have to suffer. His ego is gonna get the best of him in certain scenarios, but for the most part, he's gonna be like, well, and this is business. Like I already lost $44 billion on the purchase.
That's what I'm saying. Is like if it's lost 36 already, it doesn't have another 36 to lose. That's why I'm saying in the next 2 weeks, things will be different.
I think that they didn't lose 36. It's valued.
It can't be devalued much more.
I will say that the power of Stephen King is truly astounding. in that Elon goes, yeah, we're gonna have a thing. You're gonna have to pay $20 a month for verification, and this is gonna be great. And Stephen King goes, no, pay me. And then Elon goes, $8,
and that literally changed the world.
Like, I mean, talk about a terrible business person. Like he just buckled immediately, less than half.
And like immediately, that was the new rule. There was no bounce back. There was nothing.
I fucking love it.
It's a lot. Well, let's talk about the other news that happened this week. There's not a ton of news because that's been the lion's share of it. Obviously, midterms occurred. Well, that's not this show.
There is some huge news. Do you want to talk about the big news in the middle so that we don't have to end on a sour note?
Sure.
We lost Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, that was going to be the third act.
Now let's do that early because that way we can cheer up afterwards.
Fair.
I did not know this. Scott over on Palski's informed me that he wrote an autobiography turned comic. Are you familiar with this? Mm-hmm. I did not know this. Do you own it?
I don't. I've read it, but I don't own it.
I was completely unaware of this, that he wrote an autobiography and they were like, well, no, we want to make it into a comic book. So there's a graphic novel autobiography for Kevin Conroy. And like that, I need to read that.
Yeah, I need to read because
I know
need to reread it now.
I know a lot about his life, but only because of the pop culture Comic-Con world.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because he's a fixture of being public with all of it. He's an amazing man.
Right. I think one of the saddest things about that loss is not just the fact that he was, this proud gay man who had doors slammed in his face, who goes on to voice like one of the most iconic, heroes of all time, that like even the fucking bros who were like, probably Trump votes or like, but fucking Batman. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. That like they like, so not only was he that, not only was he, did he struggle with cancer and other ailments and all these issues, not only did he pay homage and tribute to all of his friends and peers we lost in the AIDS crisis, like all these things. He's fantastic as a human being. So it's tragic. 66, so young.
So young.
Out of all of the awful discourse that we talk about seeing about pop culture fandom being an absolute fucking nightmare all the time.
Yeah.
Nobody goes, he was a shitty Batman.
Yeah. I've been so happy to be like, what love we're seeing for one man singularly, just everyone.
I can't think of, maybe Christopher Reeves as Superman is the only other person who people who I've never heard anybody go like, nah, this is not my Superman. That's not my character. Like,
because everyone, and I love that, and I've said this on a few shows, but like, there's a bunch of James Bonds, there's a bunch of Batmans. Right. Everyone's always like, I've got my favorite Bond. Like, mine's Daniel Craig. Yours is Roger Moore or Sean Connery, right? Who's yours?
Well, it's hard for me to not say Connery, but in my rewatch, if you listen to the Patreon only pod, Roger Moore is he might
that was the vibe I was getting. So
he might be edging out.
My point is, everyone's got that, but I love that about Batman. It's always like Kevin Conroy, then you pick your live action.
Right.
And I love that he got to know that. Because I feel 100%. Like every con, every huge figure like Kevin Smith, like keeps the praise. Like while he was alive, he got to feel that love. And I think that's so unique.
Right.
Like usually you get this kind of love only after you die. He blissfully got it during his life.
Right.
And now this singular focus of positivity.
Right. Yeah. It's an incredible career. And like played this character
multiple mediums,
longer than anybody across multiple, from television to movies to video games.
Live action on CW, which is dope.
I mean, it's just an astounding career, and it's a horrible tragedy. It's like to think that we have that voices now in the past, and I'm so thankful that there's so much of it. That like I just recently, like last year, right before the movie, I remember, I rewatched all of the movies. I didn't watch the animated series, but I rewatched that set of movies, the Mask of the Phantasm and Sub-Zero and those, and they're just like there's such a weight and a class to it.
Yeah.
That like even though they're like made quote for kids, like there's just this level of seriousness to the material by everybody involved, animators, actors, everybody, that like they just hold up so insanely well. Man, he's incredible. Yeah. Just absolutely incredible.
There was no close second.
Right.
There was no one like him.
I heard the story about how he had no idea anything about Batman when he auditioned. He did not care. He like literally it was something that friends told him he should go do an audition for, and that he walked into the audition and was told by the people there, like everything about the character of Batman and how serious it was, and that Kevin Conroy was like, "Oh, this is just Shakespeare tragedy."
Yeah,
and like I know how to do this, and how like they were like, "Oh, we read every actor in Hollywood to play Batman," and we read 70 people, and like you're the guy. That's it. We're done. Like all because of their like the fact that it was taken so seriously, and then it wasn't just like
25 years later,
especially like on the heels of Burton's Batman,
right?
Where like it is really easy. Like I still love Burton's Batman, but it's not the quintessential dual identity tormented character that it's cool.
Yeah,
Burton's Batman is fucking cool.
Yeah, this is Shakespeare.
It's not as tormented as what it could become. So it would have been very easy for him just to even be like, oh, they're making a cartoon of that movie.
Right.
See the movie and be like, oh, or think like Zam Pow Whack Adam West.
Right.
Yeah.
Or let other impulses change over the time. He didn't change.
Right.
Like I love that he stayed with his Batman. Like when you watch the entire animated series, the Nolan movies coming out didn't change it. George Clooney, like I loved that.
Another thing I learned recently I did not know was that he did play Nolan's Batman.
Oh, the voice. Oh, that Dark Knight reading is incredible.
And I never knew this, but there's apparently an animated movie that takes place in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's an animated movie that's in the Nolanverse that connects those two movies, and it's like 5 different directors or 5 different animators, whatever it is. And it's like 5 stories, including Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow, like a second battle with him.
Dope.
And they have Conroy do the voice, but he doesn't do his Batman. He does Christian Bale's.
Oh, he does
because it's not written like that. And so the fact that they were like, oh, we're gonna have him come but hey, guess what? Like you're actually gonna get to play a different character. It's still Bruce Wayne and Batman, but I gotta
find this. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'm learning
in real time.
In the endless sharing of
Conroy love
of Conroy stuff on the internet, I was told about this. Kevin Conroy, Nolan's Batman. Let's see, what was it called? Here it is on CBR.com, a website that never had shitty advertisements on the bottom of it. Oh my God. Continue without disabling my ad blocker. It is called Batman Gotham Knight.
Cool.
Batman Gotham Knight. And it's 4 distinct animation houses. Studio 4 Degrees Celsius, Production IG, B-Train, and Madhouse. Deliver 6 different stories, all of them concerning Bruce Wayne's activities following the events of Batman Begins as he battles Gotham's mob and tangles with several supervillains who never make it into Nolan's trilogy, including the second confrontation with Scarecrow, and a fight with Killer Croc as well in the Gotham sewers.
Dope.
So it's like set up. It's supposed to set up Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So I'm like, now I have to see this. Like, I want to hear him do Nolan's Batman because it's like a fun other thing that you get to hear.
Yeah, that's rad. I love that. Okay, well, I got homework.
Yeah, it's just, man, it's such a tragedy. He's such a beloved person, and I am, it's one of those things where I'm really glad that he was so beloved in the circuit, because sometimes people pass away and you hear everybody talk about how incredible they were, and you wonder whether or not
they knew. That's what I'm saying. Like, he got his flowers during and after, and that's so rare.
Yeah.
He got his Huck Finn funeral. He got to live that. Yeah. And like, that's why that Stan Lee event I talk about is because we just hit 4 years without Stan this week.
Yeah.
And I remember it was only like just over 5 years ago that they had that event for Stan. And I'd never been to a living wake to that scale where it was just every comic creator, every movie. Like, it was just
do you have something to do with pop culture?
You'll want to be here. Yeah. And like, it was really, and I feel like Kevin Conroy got that at a lot of cons. And like,
he was so gracious and so awesome. Every time I went to a panel that he was at, every time I went to like anything that just to see him, he's one of those people who you just like, that even when he was ill and even when he could barely fucking walk and he was still Batman in so much people. And he was so much pain, he was thrilled to be there. Like, he never, and in a way it's kind of tragic.
Well, that's what ties into our next story is like, this happened the weekend of Wakanda Forever, which I thought was what a terrifyingly bitter parallel.
Sure.
What a synchronistic, oh, fuck. Because, I didn't know Kevin Conroy had cancer. I didn't know the scope of how like he looked older than his age.
Sure.
But I obviously didn't know.
Oh,
and then Chad.
I thought that it was noted that he had health problems in the past. Like, I knew him as an ill person. Like,
see, I knew it, but I didn't think it was serious ill. I thought it was like, he can't do a lot of cons. Or like, people in their 50s and up, there starts to be a slowdown. I didn't realize the scope of it.
Right.
So the fact that we lost him the weekend Wakanda Forever comes out, which is a movie.
Which I have not seen
which
yet.
We will not spoil. We will not. Zero spoilers.
It's only been out for a few days as of the time of this recording. And by the way, already had shit spoiled for me on Twitter.
And Jake's very happy for Twitter to go away. Actually, this is the first time we'll mention it, but in 2 weeks, we will not be recording that week because it's Thanksgiving weekend and I'm going to be in San Francisco. But the following week, we will likely be then talking about Jake's experience with Wakanda Forever with full spoilers.
Yeah, we should definitely be seeing it by then.
I mean, that's 3 weeks out.
We have plenty of time.
Yeah. So we'll no spoilers in this conversation. Be aware, be free. That said, it was a very bitter parallel that we lost Kevin Conroy, our Batman, in the weekend celebrating Chadwick. And that was a man who shouldered so much in silence and had cancer ravaging his body while he would literally go to children's hospitals and talk to those kids. And I can't imagine the mental strength to talk to children with cancer while you were privately battling it and being on set. Like, hours on set cannot be expressed. If you've never worked on a set, everyone thinks that Hollywood is like all glitz and glamour, and some of it is, but a lot of it is literally being trapped in a place for more than a work day and a half, approaching 2 work days, being on at all times and having to stay ready to be on for an additional 12th, 13th hour. And you might think like, oh, I could do a 12-hour day. You do a 13-hour day for 5 weeks and you always have to look good because you're a movie star and you have to be ready to do action. Tell me how that feels. And then the man's battling cancer.
There's also a lot of hurry up and wait on those, which can be incredibly emotionally
way
draining,
or
not emotionally, physically draining and mentally draining. Where you might, have, a 2-hour shot setup, where they need you any moment for the next 2 hours.
Right. So you're ready.
Where you have to stay at a position of any moment that you have to either, whether it's, if it's something physical, you have to be prepared to be physical. You have to be warmed up because obviously there's a lot of physical activity in those sorts of movies. Whether it's dialogue, you have to have it. You have to be in the moment. You have to be prepared for the next amount of hours and at any given point that door opens or that knock happens.
I cannot imagine doing it that sick.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give all the love to Chadwick before we even talk about the movie. What a fucking man. And so this weekend, Wakanda Forever came out, which again, no spoilers, and it's killing it. $180 million domestic, which is the highest November release of all time. The prior,
is domestic? November?
Usually it's, remember, Hunger Games was the big November release.
Was it?
And Hunger Games made 158.
Okay.
So the next highest is 158.
First Hunger Games movie?
I think it was the second one.
Oh, okay.
So Hunger Games always come out in November to kick off the holidays.
Gotcha.
So this is the highest by a fair amount over Hunger Games.
Sure.
And then 330 international. So a third of $1 billion it's hit.
Right.
So it's doing well. And it's also, that's really high for a post-pandemic. Like we're at post-lockdown.
Sure, yeah.
That's huge. Considering we beat a November release in the world now.
How did it compare to Black Adam?
Black Adam
did much better than Black Adam.
Black Adam's at 336 and this is at 330.
Got it.
Black Adam's been out for a month and a half.
2 days, guy.
Yeah. So this is already where Black Adam is effectively.
Sure.
So it's a really interesting, it's hard to compare and it's always tricky at box office in the world then versus the world now, but it's safe to say like it's doing what it needs to do for the audience. It's getting in the right, places and everything else.
Right.
And I'm really happy for it. I personally had an incredible time at the film. I'm really excited to continue the conversation around the film. But yeah, it's also, I've seen it twice, looking forward to the third time, but you all know it's about trauma. It's a hard movie to go back and rewatch.
Sure,
so I'm really curious how it does legs wise, because it's like not a romp.
I can imagine it being one of those movies that, years down the road when you like want to do a marathon of like a specific phase, or like I want to rewatch like these movies. Yeah, that being the one where it's like, fuck, we gotta watch Wakanda Forever,
and not at its fault, but because it's so strong.
I get it.
Yeah, so it's I'm excited to see it a third time, but I can't just do that on an afternoon. Like I'm not emotionally ready. So I'm really curious how the legs are because of that. And then over to, we kind of started, as we wrap this up before we give you guys some comic recs, we started the show talking about the fallout of other studios. We've heard a lot about Discovery and the Warner Brothers side. There was an article that came out on Friday about Disney. To further elaborate on that, they're looking at, a huge amount of employees let go or hiring freezes, but then also Amazon announced 10,000 employees are going to be let go.
Yeah, well, they're only making like whatever it is, $130,000 a year off of every individual employee or some crazy stat. Again, listen to Good Work Pod over at goodworkpod.com.
Fucking insane.
We cover all this crazy shit. But yeah, it's the fact that company is letting anybody go is fucking insane.
They have just profited. Like the amount of money Amazon has made.
And I hope the housekeepers who are suing Jeff Bezos get $17 billion.
I would like that. I'd like that very much.
It's absurd that Amazon is laying anybody off.
Yeah.
I mean, this is such a rich company that it's like, it's again, we can give shit to Elon about spending $44 billion on Twitter when you could have just fucking solved world hunger. Like Jeff Bezos could just be like, you know what? Instead of firing all those people, each one of you is a millionaire.
Yeah.
He can give everybody that works from $1 million.
And in the time it'll take him to hand it out, he'll make that money.
Yes. And drop in the bucket.
Right. Like he'll literally, in the handing it over to write those checks.
Right. Yeah.
He'll make it back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's fucking insane.
So I'm
now, here's the reality is like that we're talking about Bezos, we're talking about Amazon retail and all that nonsense. How does that affect the likes of Amazon Studios making shows like Rings of Power?
Yep.
And spending money on stuff like an Invincible show and like where it's like, well, are we still going to be trying to push Prime as a streaming service, or is it just going to be one of the streaming services that goes like, well, maybe this wasn't super fruitful after all?
And I do feel like that's coming too. I feel like the studio system being down to like 4 major studios, if you really look at it.
Right.
Disney, Warner Brothers, Paramount had a big year.
Right.
Sony. And I feel Universal, 5. We'll say 5 major studios. I'm wondering what streaming looks like in a year. Like when we do our year-end wrap-up 2023.
Right.
Like we're seeing a lot of big shifts. If they're letting go $10K from Amazon, that does not bode well for Prime.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question really is this all like, is this just to fight union efforts? Is this just to fight?
Are these all the union leaders?
Like, is this like what I'm curious?
Like the Starbucks thing?
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious to like whether or not this will have bearings on their desire to keep people as Prime members.
Right.
And a part of paying for Prime is like, well, you get the 2-day shipping on shit you order, but if you're not ordering a lot, maybe we just cancel Prime. But then you go, well, at least we have the video service.
Right.
And
but if you're one of those,
I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's one of the things that keeps me as a Prime.
Oh, 100%.
Is because like, well, like,
I don't think of the shipping.
It's convenient to have that every now and then. And like, I don't know. It's fucking tough.
It's a weird time.
I Do you think that any of the current streamers that we know of, the big ones, what do we got? We got Max, or not Max? Yeah, Max, HBO Max. Yep. I keep wanting to call it HBO Go. I'll never let that go. We got HBO Max. We got Peacock. We've got I blanked on all of them. Netflix, Amazon. Thank you.
Apple
and Paramount Disney Plus, and Apple. So I think like those are like the 7 really top ones. And then you do have stuff. Roku crushed it with Weird. But it's not even a streaming service. It's like a free thing that comes with, yeah, exactly. It's an app. Like out of all of those, I feel like Apple is safe.
I feel like Apple's safe. Because their content is so quality, even if it's not quantity, and it's not expensive. Like it's $6 or whatever.
I think Netflix is safe in the sense that they're just going to stop spending money.
Yeah.
But people are, but even though they lost like 1 million subscribers like in 2022.
And they're changing their entire pricing structure.
Right.
We didn't even talk about that.
Well, I mentioned it. They're going to be charging per user.
But also, did you see the 4K is $20 and
no.
So they've got 4 tiers now.
That works great for me, who does not give 2 shit about 4K.
So there's 4 tiers.
Movies are not supposed to look like that.
So there's one. Hold on, I'll pull it up. There's 4 tiers of Netflix now, and it's anywhere from like $7.
And that's TEARS.
Yeah, well that's we all have those tiers.
4 tiers of Netflix.
So there's basic with ads for $7 a month. I don't even know how that works. Basic for $10 a month.
What do you mean how that works?
Like, is it going to be mid-movie? Is it going to be?
It'll be depending on. I know this from personal experience. It's going to be depending on the contracts with those specific distributors to that movie. For example, if you watch something on Tubi, I know that like I think like the Sony Pictures deal is that they can only put commercials on a movie on Tubi in the first 30 minutes of it.
Oh, okay.
And like, so there's
not
like
in the middle of an action set piece.
but it all depends on the deal with that specific thing. So it's not a blanket. Some shows and movies will have commercials only at the very beginning. Some will allow them first. I can guarantee you if it's something that's already a TV show, they'll go where the commercial breaks generally go. Right. Why not just utilize those spaces?
But the basic with ads, big shows like Stranger Things and stuff aren't available on it.
Right.
So
it's not
very really
basic.
Netflix. So it's like, yeah.
So yeah, I wonder what how do they describe that as basic then?
So basic with ads is some movies and TV shows unavailable.
Oh, gotcha.
And that's $7. And then $10 is basic, and you can still only one supported device at a time, just like basic with ads. Unlimited movies and TV shows. So then you level up.
You get everything.
Yep. And then up from there is standard, which is $15 a month.
Right.
Which is 2 supported devices at a time. Unlimited, then HD, and then premium is $20 a month. 4 devices, which is where I think your chunks will come in, and then Ultra HD, so 4K.
Yeah, that's it's not that big of a. I mean, I think that now
it's double the price, right? Isn't it 12 right now?
Yeah, but 12 to 13 or 12 to 15 is not a big jump,
right? But 12 to 20.
That's what I'm currently. I'm currently have whatever the equivalent of that
of
15,
standard, yeah,
of that 15 one is, but
I'm wondering how long until they start throttling the quality on standard. Like the $10 one, I could see them being like, "Oh, we don't have the bandwidth." It's all like artifacted and stuff, like Apple does with their devices.
Right.
Like I could easily see that being like, "You should level up to 15."
Yeah, I don't know. They can do what the fuck they want.
Yeah,
as long as people are paying for it.
We are by the balls.
That's capitalism. So I don't know.
What a downer episode. I love that we're like every news story. It's like, yeah, but we have no power.
I will say. So I feel I always hate it when I bring something up and all the fine details because I thought that it was Netflix, but clearly it's not. I did read, and I don't remember which one. Some service is going to charge per user.
Wouldn't be surprised if it was HBO. Because HBO's got a lot of restructuring going on. Because
maybe it was HBO.
It sounds like an HBO thing.
Where you can't, like every user
is
on
another
your
cost.
Is an additional fee. Like it's not like a whole thing, but it's like
$5 more for this.
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
Yeah, I can see that.
You pay like whatever it is, $10-$15, and then every additional one is another $4 or whatever. It is.
But yeah, it's a big old shift. This feels a lot like when we first started the show, where it's like changes.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm curious to see whether or not this truly does help the theater industry. You know my opinion on big blockbuster theater experiences, how they've just been totally destroyed and diminished by the general public, and how Alexandra and I were talking about not going to see Wakanda Forever, and she even said she's like, this is the first Marvel movie we haven't seen opening night.
Wow.
In forever, and or at minimum the next like opening night, meaning. If it comes out on Thursday,
between Thursday and Saturday.
I'm sorry. Not if it comes out on Friday, not the Thursday at midnight showings,
right?
But the actual Friday, like we would generally do that way.
Yeah. And it's for last Monday.
And she was just like, part of it is fatigue. It is like, it's not that we don't want to see this. It's not that we're not excited for it. It's going to be really special. We know it's going to be tearjerker. We know it's going to be beautiful. But like, it's also just like, our recent experiences that are well cataloged on this program, fresh in our mind. Like, I'm more upset that we didn't go see Banshees. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm more upset. Like that right now. That's what I'm like. Oh, I really wanted to go see that one.
I can't wait to talk to you about Banshees.
I wanted to go see that one with Tilda Swinton and those are the movies. And I feel like those are the movie experiences I really miss. Like, we have not seen a non-Marvel movie,
dude,
in the movie theater since Emma.
What?
Emma was the last movie we saw in a movie theater.
Isn't that like 2019, 2020?
It was February of 2020. It was
Holy shit.
It was our last movie before the pandemic. The only times we've been to the movies was during the pandemic was because we didn't want shit to get spoiled of us. We're like, we have to go see the Marvel movie because it's going to get spoiled for us. We have not seen any other movies in the theater since February.
Because you didn't even see the Batman until Home.
Right? Yeah, we waited for Home for the Batman.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a crazy thing.
If I go look at my tags on Letterboxd and go to theater, let's see. Organize, sort by newest first. Yep. Thor, Doctor Strange, okay, I lied. I'm sorry. There's one movie in the middle there. No, two. Okay, all right. I'm not as bad as I thought, but still only two in the middle.
Yeah.
We did go see Last Night in Soho.
Oh.
And we did go see Ghostbusters Afterlife, which came out in 2021.
Okay, but so two movies since Emma. That's so
Two
intense.
movies since Emma. The only other movies we saw in the theater since Emma were Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man, No Way, or whatever it's called. No Way Home, Doctor Strange, and Thor.
Wow.
We have seen only 8 movies in the past 2 years in the theater.
That's crazy. Truly.
It's insane. And also, it's quite clear that we're wasting our money on AMC Plus or whatever it's called.
Because you use it every 2 months for
Well,
Marvel movies.
we didn't.
That's so nuts, dude.
We didn't resubscribe. But anyways, yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this out while on this downer episode of The World's Imploding. Got some comic recommendations for you.
Hey, sometimes good things come from episodes like this.
Hey, and sometimes good things come from...
Like everybody on Twitter and Instagram posting and commenting on Koijandro's at Koijandro saying, hey, tell us about the new Koikast episode.
Is that the good that's coming from
that's
this?
Gonna be the
Is that the good?
That's going to be the good that comes from it.
The internet. So, all right, let me give you some comic recs as we wrap out. I do feel great about where comics are right now. Hopefully they keep...
hopefully the Disney budget cuts don't affect Marvel publishing.
Hope not. I don't think they pay them a lot as is, so hopefully not.
That's what I'm saying. I can't imagine that. Like,
hopefully
they're gonna
as the small fish.
They're not going to gain a bunch.
I don't know if they're looking at the small fish right now.
Also, I mean, I don't think that I don't think printing is hurting right now. For
it doesn't
them.
seem to be.
Like,
I think it's kind of balanced out.
Yeah.
So from the last week of October, the 26th, my favorite books were Action Comics number 1048, Amazing Spider-Man 12, Axe Judgment Day 6 concluded beautifully, Batman Beyond the White Knight number 6, Catwoman Lonely City number 4 also concluded beautifully.
What is that book called?
Catwoman Lonely City.
You said Catwoman so fast that I could have sworn you said Catmom Lonely City, and I was like, I gotta read Catmom.
This sounds cute. And then we got Criminal Macabre and Count Crowley as a team-up book written by David Desmalchin, which was lovely. We've got Damn Them All number 1. This is my book of the week here because anytime there's a number 1, I can recommend to you guys that I feel like it's approachable, that I feel like helps an indie studio, and I also feel like is going to be huge.
Right.
I try to tell you.
Yeah, get in now, and don't be like me who goes like, shit, there's already 60 issues of this. Do I want to start right now?
Damn Them All is written by Simon Spurrier, who's one of my favorite Constantine writers. And they unceremoniously canceled his Black Label Constantine book, which was one of the best Constantine runs I'd ever read. He then went to Boom Studios, who is an indie company, and is now writing his own underworld, badass, British occult summoner, very akin to John Constantine, but with no continuity, no holds barred. And it's Boom Studios, so it's like going to hit, like, you have more creative control when you're in an indie house.
That dude is also like a Tim Burton kind of guy, where he's all about like an aesthetic. He's like a former art director.
It's incredible.
I actually know a little bit about that dude's history, and he's
big fan.
He is one of those like visual guys,
and you feel it.
Like
and you can hear his like when you read it, it sounds like Guy Ritchie. Like you can feel his words.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Damn Them All number 1, highly recommend. Harley Quinn 23, Human Target 8. Human Target is back in a big way. I love this book. Lovesick number 1, also recommend if you're over 18. And in a, how do I not make this sound weird. If you're
Too late.
into, yeah, I'm like, no matter what, if you're into more like sexual deviancy and experimental kinky shit, it's a very interesting perverse book in that it's about watching this woman that's into kink murdering incels, trolling her on message boards. And what I love about it is,
so wait, let me, now that you've said that, let me fix your intro.
Okay.
If you're thirsty and angry,
then I got a book for you.
Right.
Lovesick #1.
Right. Thirsty and angry.
Effectively, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
So this book is, I love the commentary I think it's giving. It's only one issue in, so I don't know what it's obviously through line's going to be. But in the first issue, I was like, whoa, this is very, very like kinky and violent. And I'm wondering which is making me more uncomfortable. My Americanized version of prudish sex or my thinking that violence is more acceptable than titties. Because, like, I grew up American, so therefore I've seen a lot more beheadings than I see mainstream nudity. So it's really interesting to read a book that has so much of both and like have inner turmoil of like, this shouldn't bother me. Those are tits. So I love this book. I'm really impressed so far. Lovesick #1. Pearl 3, #6, concluding the third volume of the Pearl series. Love it a lot. Punchline, the Gotham game. I don't know how Punchline's such a cool character, but she manages. She's like the new girlfriend of the Joker, and they're very consciously making her like a sassy antagonist to Harley Quinn, and it works. Riddler Year 1, #1. This would be the book of the week if not for those two indies. This is a Paul Dano written Riddler book. This is him using his head canon for his character as the canon for this book.
That's fun.
So basically, like when an actor writes a backstory, you usually never know what it is. He turned it into a comic, and it's awesome. Highly recommend Riddler Year 1. Rogues Gallery #4, Variants #4, and Wolverine 26 to close out October. From last week, the first week of November, Batman 129, Batman Joker Deadly Duo #1, a series of events leads the Joker and Batman to team up. Fun-ass book, written and illustrated by Mark Silvestri, an artist I love very much. That was one of the founding members of Image. Black Panther #11, Count Crowley Amateur Midnight Hunter #4, concluding the second volume of Count Crowley. Dark Knights of Steel #8, Gotham City Year 1 #2. This is the second one of those books that Jake was excited about. The classic, like, of Gotham when it was like an actual metropolis, like a nice place to live.
Right, yeah.
Fun Tom King book. Joker, Man Who Stopped Laughing #2, just as solid as the first. Old Dog 2, just as solid as the first. Poison Ivy #6, concluding that first arc. Punisher #7. Secret Invasion #1, a great espionage book that looks to kind of bring people back into the familiarity as we lean into the Secret Invasion series. I don't think they're adapting this to the series, but I think it's like, oh, remember how much you love Secret Invasion from like the 2000s.
So like this isn't like the movie version.
No, it's not like a tie-in, but I feel like it's like, oh, remember Secret Invasion. Because it's a continuation of the first book, but that was like mid-2000s.
Seems a little exploitative.
I mean,
let them sell. I get it. Like
I would think so, but it's actually good. Like it doesn't feel like a cop-out,
right.
And I was worried. I didn't think that'd make my list.
Right.
But when I read it, I was like, oh, I'm glad this is back.
Nice.
So that's nice. She-Hulk #7 and Time Before Time 18 are our books of the week. That is going to do it, you lovelies. If you made it this far, thank you for hearing us worry about the future, and thank you for hearing us. Actually, you know what? More than most episodes, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Jake and I waxing poetic about the industry, because we're both uniquely at different points in the industry. Jake is a director who has made a thing, and Jake has multiple podcasts where he listens to people in different corners of the industry. I am plugged in very specifically to the pop culture side and the hype side and have to be on the fucking internet too much. So we're in different spots. So if you'd like to hear more episodes where we wax poetic from our different perspectives as opposed to just a glut of news, it was really fun for me not to have to prep 100 things because there wasn't a lot of news. It just, we had what we had and we wanted to talk about it. So if you dug this, 818-794-0722 for any of your thoughts in either direction. You can also send a voice memo to contact@koicast.com. Please do rate and review at Apple Podcasts, those 5 and 4 and 3. And yes, even 1-star reviews. They don't make me happy, but at least they move the needle.
Also on Spotify, they now have ratings on Spotify. You can't leave a review, but you can leave a rating. So throw Spotify 5 stars.
Give us a boost. Yeah. Give us a Spotify boost. Check out koicast.com for merch. We got shirts. We got mugs. We got masks. We're going into the holidays. Fun little side effect of wearing a mask, other than preventing, potential spread of COVID, keeps you warm. I'm going up to the Bay for Fan Expo. If you guys live in San Francisco, I'll be running a lot of the panels at the Fan Expo up in San Fran. But, nice. Your boy's going to be wearing a mask outside to stay warm. So we got masks over at the koicast.com store. You can also join our Patreon, which I am very, very excited to say has some great tiers, some great experiences, some great options, and hundreds of episodes of us talking about art week to week.
And the second you become a patron of whatever tier it is, you get access to the entire back catalog of whatever is offered at that point. So if you become a patron that gets the patron-only pod, you don't then only get the new ones. You immediately have access to over 120-something episodes, whatever we're up to.
It's the holidays, so for mere dollars a month, you can literally you can catch up over the holiday break and hear hundreds of hours of us talking.
Or you could just cherry pick because everything is labeled, so you can just go and look for movies that you are curious about our opinions of, or movies that you go, oh, I'm curious if I should bother watching this.
You guys tweet me a lot, like, what did I think of blank? Boom, look up blank on the Patron Pod. I've probably talked about it with Jake.
Yeah.
And you can also follow us on social media. Use hashtag Koicast.
Especially on Twitter.
And it's
while it's still there.
At Koijandro on Twitter, at Jake Lloyd Bacon on Twitter. At least
at It's Dragon Wagon to follow the network. And hashtag Koicast.
As of press on Monday the 14th, Twitter still exists. So hunt us down there. We might still exist. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you, as always, to the few, the proud, and the good people using social media to help others for existing. We'll see you soon.
Scott and Arver here, along with
Jake Lloyd Bacon.
We're both actors and comedians, but far more importantly, we're both professional wrestling fans.
Pro wrestling is a blast. It is over the top. It is ridiculous. It is comedic, dramatic, and everything in between.
And so is our show. We talk about old wrestling.
We talk about new wrestling.
We talk about wrestling in the future.
We talk about wrestling in our fantasies.
So tune in at pwpowskis.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Wagon.